And without further ado, let's do a little drum roll. Come on, let's give him the benefit of the drum. It's only fair. Why should the last storyteller? Just because I know who he is, you don't know who he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bryant Ross! Yes. Wait. I hate Christmas. The whole month of December. You know, some people just aren't wired that way. Some people just aren't Christmassy. My father was the same way. Him and I both paste fake smiles on our faces and quietly wait for January. The big difference between my father and I is that he hated Santa Claus too. Anytime anybody mentioned the name Santa Claus, he would say, Santa Claus does not exist. Figment of your imagination. You are harming children by teaching them to believe in something that they cannot see. Well, back in 1991, I still believed that. I didn't believe in Santa Claus right up until the day I'm going to tell you the story about. You see, my son was born in 1991, and I went to my company's Christmas party. I worked in a factory then. And I walked into that Christmas party, and as you can bear in mind, it was a sugar-fueled scream fest. It was a pack of rabid 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old kids running around, screaming and yelling. And I just stood there with a fake smile on my face going, Jesus Christ, I hope this ends sometime soon. But a lady ran up to me and she said, Brian, I'm glad you're here. The Santa Claus we had arranged for has not shown up. You're the biggest guy here. Can you put the suit on? And I thought, Jesus H. Christ, I'm going to be the Santa Claus? The worst guy on earth. But what am I going to do? I'm not a Grinch. I don't ruin Christmases for people. I just hate it, personally. So I said, sure, I'll do that. I went and put the suit on. I came back, and I stood there at the door, put my hand on the doorknob, and I heard my father's voice in my ear saying, Santa Claus does not exist. He's a figment of your imagination, and you're harming children by teaching them to believe in something that they can't see. What could I do? I couldn't run away. I couldn't quit. I couldn't say, no, I'm not going to do this. I opened the door, and I walked in, and I said, ho, 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 and I knew I had made a terrible mistake. Because I had no idea what to do. I had no idea how to be a Santa Claus. I'd never sat on a Santa Claus's lap as a kid because, of course, nobody in my family believed in Santa Claus. And so I walked through there and just suddenly realized I had no idea what to do next. But I didn't have to worry because the place was full of 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old kids. And even if Santa Claus didn't know what the hell to do, they knew what to do. They gathered around me like sharks around a bleeding seal. And they grabbed me by the hand, and they grabbed me by the coat, and they dragged me across the room, and they set me down in that chair. And the first one climbed up in my lap. He was about a 3-, 4-year-old boy, and he wrapped his arms around my neck. He climbed up in my lap. He gave me the biggest hug in the world, and he sat back and looked up at me with those big eyes and said, Santa Claus. And that was when I had the epiphany. You see, I looked down into those huge eyes and I realized at that moment that in his heart and in his soul, I was him. I was the guy. There wasn't a question in his mind. There wasn't a suspicion in his heart. I was the guy. I was the genuine article. I was the boss. I was the big kahuna. I was the jolly fat man from the North Pole. And I realized right at that second that in his heart, I was him. And it was him and everybody else in that room that made me real. And at that instant, I realized that Santa Claus existed. And I was him for just a short time. I was him. And 2 hours later, I stood up. And I was half blind from flash bulbs, and I was half deaf from screaming babies, and there was vomit and piss on my lap, and most of it was theirs. And I staggered out of that room, wishing to God it could last just a little bit longer. And I'm not going to tell you now that this is one of those happy Christmas stories where Christmas magic happens and suddenly I love Christmas. No, I still hate it. I hate Christmas. I hate the month of December, but I'll tell you something else. That was 18 years ago when I haven't worked for that company in 16 years, but every year they phone me up and they say, Brian, will you be Santa Claus again? And I say, hell yes. And every year I put that suit on and I walk up to that door and I put my hand on that doorknob and I'm still seized by the blind panic and guilt that I felt that very first time I hear my father's voice say, Santa Claus does not exist. You're going to harm those children. And every year I open that door, I walk through and I say, ho, ho, ho. But just before I do, I always say, you were wrong, Dad.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, oh, oh.
The Vancouver Story Slam. Okay, judges, put that together for number one last time. And, you know, I'm not supposed to sway you guys, but that was sweet. And, yeah, not that I was sweet. Hey, you know what? Disagree with me. You might hate me. You might think, fuck that. Pardon me. Screw that. Because this is a Christmas show. So, without further ado, let's do this for one last time, and then let's hand out some hardware. Judges, for the last time of the evening, thank you very much. 1, 2, 3, up with your scores. Oh, in the back we got a very conservative 9.3. And then up here we got a 9.8. And over here we got a 9.6. And a 9.7. And finally from down in front, a 9.9. Yes. Yeah. Well, we're going to find out over the time in just a second. Rhonda's going to lightningly, thunderingly, typhoonedly add that up one more time, and we're going to get a score.
29.1. 29.1.
29.1. And now the big question of the night, not that I didn't hear the gong, so I don't think we could hurt this guy from here on in, but what was his time?
Oh, his time?
Yes. You have 2 jobs. It's time as well.
It was 4:50.
450? Woo! That's pretty sexy. It's not the sexiest, I can tell you that right now. I'm looking at the sexiest. That's not, but that's very sexy. That's the negligee going up the stairs for sure. So we're gonna figure that out. I think I got what it is. Rhonda, come up and see me as soon as you got that sorted out. 1, 2, 3. But before we go into that, let's hand out a couple of prizes for 2 things that we do here that are unrelated to the actual competition itself. That's the lunch and the sexy time. And we've all enjoyed listening to them. Let's get them up here one by one. First of all, and please don't hold back on the applause. Oh, one last thing before I go into this, please. Please, like I said earlier, there's other people besides myself, or I've been running this thing. One more time for Kaylin doing the sound. The ever-present and friendly one and known for doing the time score. Our 5 judges. The staff at Cabin Soleil for providing such great service. And last but not least, the whole lot of you, because hey, let's face it, without an audience, this city's nothing. So give yourselves in 3rd place tonight, and I'll never be able to look at her the same because the now I'm picturing her as a young girl with Wonder Woman underwear. It's Shannon Rain, everybody. Come on. Share the podium. Where is she? Oh, there she is. I'll get you some dough in just a second. I got it all in my pocket right here. Okay, in 2nd place, man oh man, it was a good story. I just hope they got that car off the tracks eventually. Bill McNamara, come on. Is the car still there? Is the 38 car still embedded in the tracks? That wouldn't surprise me. And finally, you know, we had to wait all night to hear him, but let's face it, it was a fantastic show. He's a fireman who risks his life every day to help the citizens of Langley, but most importantly, he's a hell of a storyteller. Mr. Bryant Ross. Reaction Queen, thank yourselves, thank everybody here. That was the Vancouver Story Slam Christmas edition. I've been Clint Wilson. You've all been